says right there, watch this. Every time we play her, there's this commotion, like this loud rumbling from the stands. Turns out it's people, thousands of them, just sitting there watching on purpose. It's very disruptive. She says WNBA games used to be a chill, quiet place. You could bring your laptop and relax, maybe even get a little work done. But now,
imagine surviving 10 brutal months in a Russian penal colony, traded home in a jaw-dropping swap for an arms dealer called the Merchant of Death, then stepping onto a WNBA court and declaring the real menace is the cheering section. One casual jab about light racism set Brittney Griner's comeback ablaze, and Stephen A. Smith's icy reality check poured gasoline on the flames. Suddenly, the woman once hailed as a geopolitical rescue mission was getting roasted for ingratitude, while ticket prices, TV ratings, and Caitlin Clark mania threatened to redefine the league she plays in. How did a simple crowd roar morph into accusations of hate? Why did America's $1 million rescue end in a meltdown watched by millions? And what does this clash reveal about fame, entitlement, and a fan base louder than ever? Stick around, because by the time we're done, you'll see the real battle isn't Griner versus Stephen A. It's a showdown between gratitude and outrage.
Let me read you the ticket prices. After Caitlin Clark's been hurt for 2 weeks. All right, so let's go through this. Caitlin Clark absence is having an immediate impact beyond the court. According to data shared by Yahoo Sports via TickPick, prices for 2 specific Indiana Fever away games against the Chicago Sky and the Washington Mystics
fought on the noisiest stage the internet can build. What should have been a routine courtside soundbite exploded into a social media supernova. Post-game, when a reporter asked Brittney Griner about the WNBA's new ear-splitting atmosphere, she skipped the usual cliches. No shout-out to ticket giveaways, no nod to Caitlin Clark's record-shattering pull. Instead, she zoomed in on a dad and his grade school daughter screaming themselves hoarse in row 12 and shrugged. Honestly, might just be some light racism. 12 words. That's all it took to flip a feel-good attendance boom into a cultural landmine. The reaction was volcanic. Highlight reels paused mid-dunk so networks could run the quote in slow-mo. Light racism rocketed past playoff hashtags, and comment sections mutated into history lectures on the spot. Fans who'd paid top dollar to chant for buzzer beaters woke up labeled potential bigots.
Griner, who was imprisoned in Russia, in a man's prison.
For a league finally cracking primetime lineups and seeing resale tickets spike from $20 to triple digits, Griner's remark felt like yanking the plugs on its own neon marquee. Worse, it underscored a brutal irony. The louder the crowds got, the outcome every WNBA veteran claimed to crave. The more one of its biggest names distrusted the roar. Yet the outrage wasn't just about a single phrase. It was the instant assumption that excitement had to be rooted in hate. That leap hit Americans' collective last nerve, especially at a moment when sports is one of the few places people from every background still unite behind a scoreboard. The piling on was swift, but no one predicted who'd strike first or how savage the blow would be. Enter Stephen A. Smith, pacing like a prosecutor and ready to remind the world that the same country now being painted as hostile had literally bartered with the Merchant of Death to get Griner home. His rebuttal wouldn't just question her comment, it would drag her entire narrative into the harshest possible light, setting the stage for a meltdown the league could least afford. Stephen A. Smith didn't fire back with a hot take. He delivered a televised cross-examination that dragged Griner's gripe from the hardwood to a Russian prison cell. He opened by reminding viewers that the United States freed Victor Bout.
Respectfully, Brittney Griner was in a Russian prison. You would think that somebody who is now free, back in America on home soil, would not have too much to complain about.
An arms dealer so notorious he's called the Merchant of Death to bring her home. One convicted terrorist for one basketball star. If you've stared down iron doors and Kalashnikov armed guards, the roar of paying fans should sound like liberty, not hostility. Then he flipped the lens. Those noisy spectators shelled out for tickets, jerseys, and travel precisely to celebrate her comeback. Hardly the posture of closet bigots. Calling that enthusiasm light racism, Smith argued. argued, was biting the very hand that untied her shackles. He sealed it with a line that rocketed across social media before ESPN hit commercial. America let the merchant of death walk so you could dribble. Now you're furious the seats aren't quiet? Smith wasn't done. He rattled off how NBA, NFL, and even college stars convert hostile road crowds into jet fuel, framing noise as part of the paycheck, not an insult. To him, gratitude, not grievance, should headline Griner's return narrative. Viewers agreed. Within hours, hashtags Merchant of Death and light racism topped Twitter trends. Reaction clips flooded TikTok, and sports bar TVs replayed Smith's monologue on loop, sometimes louder than the actual games. Griner's response made it worse. Instead of pausing, she fired off Instagram stories branding Smith ignorant, doubled down on the race angle, and unwittingly
is in fact a man. And where a lot of this actually surfaced from, and I mean, you guys could probably say like, yo, isn't it obvious? Like her voice, you know, there's a lot of
poured gasoline on a blaze, already scorching every WNBA headline. What began as a sideline quip had become a cultural flashpoint, with Stephen A holding the torch and an entire league bracing for the fallout. Griner's first reply hit Instagram before sunrise, a black screen story with white text calling Stephen A ignorant and warning that certain voices stay loud because controversy sells. Within minutes, she followed it with a selfie video, eyes blazing, insisting her light racism remark was taken out of context and vowing to protect black women in every space, every time. Rather than cooling tempers, each post spiked them. Screenshots splashed across X, TikTok edits layered her rant over arena crowd chants, and number light racism crossed 220,000 mentions in under 12 hours. The pace only accelerated. She hopped to threads, slamming Smith's Merchant of Death theatrics as clickbait, then dropped a third story comparing hostile crowds to lynch mob energy, language that sent mainstream outlets scrambling for panel guests.
Toxic. I saw a guy with his daughter in the crowd, both of them yelling, couldn't hear what they were saying exactly, but it was either my performance or some light racism. But here's where I'm going with this.
Reaction channels milked the feed in real time. One YouTuber clocked 90K live viewers dissecting every syllable, while ESPN's own social team clipped Smith's line for TikTok and racked up 2 million views by lunch. By day's end, the meltdown was eclipsing actual games. SportsCenter's lead segment covered not the night's box scores, but the Griner-Smith feud, and Reddit's RWNBA thread logged its busiest day ever, more than tripling the traffic from last season's finals. Even sympathetic teammates went silent. No player publicly defended the light racism phrase, signaling that support inside the locker room didn't stretch to the timeline.
To the NBA, WNBA, it used to be a peaceful, small little thing. Now there's crowds screaming, hollering. This is disruptive. It's not allowing us to play the game. This is her quote. I don't know if you saw this or not when she gave that. Okay.
Yet the loudest blowback came from everyday fans. Comment sections filled with clips of parents cheering beside their kids, captioned, "Is this racism, Brittney?" Ticket stub selfies drowned out her narrative, and every repost kept the algorithm spinning the controversy forward. Griner's attempt to reclaim the storyline instead guaranteed it would outgrow her control, and the numbers surrounding Caitlin Clark's drawing power were about to make that crystal clear. While Griner sparred online, the market rendered its verdict in dollars and cents. The moment rookie phenom Caitlin Clark rolled an ankle and hit the injured list, resale sites flashed red. Seats for the Indiana Fever's 2-game road swing against Chicago and Washington cratered from triple digits to pocket change almost overnight. In Chicago, a Saturday matchup that had hovered near $140 sunk below $40. In DC, Upper Bowl get-ins slid from $95 to under $25.
Actually, Brittney Griner.
One analyst pegged the average drop at nearly 70%, the steepest single-player impact women's basketball has ever recorded. Numbers like that lay bare who's pulling the league's surge. TV executives aren't greenlighting primetime slots because they're charmed by quiet gyms. They're chasing Clark-driven rating spikes that outdrew MLB midseason games and even grazed early-round NBA counts. Merch sales mirror the trend. Clark jerseys sold out in 3 cities before she'd logged 10 professional minutes, while her social metric footprint, all before her 23rd birthday, already dwarfs most WNBA veterans. That context makes Griner's "the crowd's too loud" lament land like a brick in a glass huddle. Fans aren't just background noise.
Brittney Griner was in a Russian prison. You would think that somebody who is now free, back in America on home soil, would not have too much to complain about.
They're the lifeblood converting double-digit attendance bumps into brand new broadcast deals and bonus checks. Every decibel she calls toxic is another dollar padding the salary cap she cashes from. And when the face of that momentum limps off the court, the silence isn't comfort. It's lost revenue everyone in the locker room feels. Yet the story wasn't just about fluctuating ticket stubs. It was about how quickly teammates, coaches, and even rival stars noticed that silence and chose it for themselves when Griner needed backup, but that hush would soon speak louder than any tweet storm. As ticket prices tanked, another hush settled. This time inside the WNBA, reporters hunting for quotes found teammates speaking in clipped phrases or not at all. Coaches defaulted to "we're focused on basketball," and league social accounts sidestepped any post hinting at light racism. Sports radio hosts noticed first. The same vets who hashtag "we ride together" during contract fights were suddenly mute. A few retired stars urged Griner, politely but publicly, to read the room, while the league finally fills arenas. Even the players' union issued only a generic line about respecting diverse fan bases. Silence had become its own verdict. Mainstream outlets echoed it. ESPN looped Stephen A's rant hourly, yet current players quietly declined panel invites. Papers that once hailed Griner's homecoming now ran op-eds on squandered goodwill, and even player-friendly blogs called the optics brand suicide. With allies ducking and sponsors watching, Griner found herself alone in a storm she'd stirred, just as the prisoner swap narrative was roaring back to the surface, ready to measure every complaint against the price America paid for her freedom. The louder the backlash grew, the more one question echoed. What did that rescue really cost? News anchors replayed the December 2022 footage of Victor Bout, arms dealer, convicted conspirator, and global bogeyman, walking back onto Russian soil while Griner landed on US tarmac to cheers. Commentators across the political aisle suddenly found common ground. If a country is willing to swap the merchant of death for your release, a complaint about decibels feels painfully out of tune. Taxpayers who funded the diplomatic sprint felt doubly slighted. On talk radio, callers asked why gratitude gave way to grievance so fast. On Capitol Hill, a handful of lawmakers revived hearings on whether high-profile prisoner deals send the wrong message. Even late-night hosts, usually quick to defend athletes, couldn't resist punchlines about trading terrorists for someone allergic to applause. For Griner, every new mention of the swap acted like an amplifier on Stephen A's original critique. The narrative was no longer just player versus pundit, it was rescued citizen versus nation that paid the ransom. And each time she posted or spoke without acknowledging that reality, the gap between her perspective and the public's widened. By week's end, even sympathetic voices urged her to hit pause and recalibrate. Because in today's algorithm-driven news cycle, one misstep isn't a moment, it's a perpetual loop, and that relentless loop was about to collide with the mechanics of social media in a way that would magnify every slip, screenshot, and soundbite far beyond a single arena. Social media outrage isn't a storm, it's a centrifuge. Once something incendiary drops in, algorithms spin it faster, separating every ounce of nuance from the thick, sticky outrage that keeps people scrolling. Griner's doubling down fed that machine perfectly. Each story she posted produced stitched TikTok reactions, 60-second YouTube shorts, and thread after thread of explainers breaking down why cheering dads were now suspects. The more she insisted on being the wronged party, the more the internet recast her as Exhibit A in a masterclass on entitlement. Numbers told the tale better than any pundit. In 3 days, clips tagged number light racism racked up more views than the WNBA's entire finals highlight reel from last season. Reaction channels, notorious for feasting on controversy, saw subscriber bumps bigger than some teams' average attendance. Meanwhile, Griner's own follower count froze, then dipped, a sign that even sympathetic fans had hit saturation. Every attempt to clarify just relit the fuse, because clarification means fresh content, and fresh content keeps the outrage carousel turning. Contrast that with athletes who master the spin. Kevin Durant shrugs off Twitter wars. Patrick Beverley turns booze into brand deals. They ride the wave. Griner kept trying to dam the tide with more words, and each brick she laid redirected water straight back at her. In algorithmic ecosystems, victim narratives only work when the audience buys the premise. If they don't, every new plea sounds like an echo, louder but emptier. And that feedback loop didn't stay confined to one player's timeline. Sponsors clock engagement spikes, league execs watch sentiment dashboards, and teammates track how their own mentions get dragged into the fray. The question looming over every front office wasn't just how will Brittney recover? It was, can the league afford another flare-up like this while it's finally surging? That leads to the crossroads the WNBA now faces, one where packed arenas, soaring ratings, and a rookie sensation collide head-on with the risk of star-driven backfires. The WNBA has never had momentum like this. Sellouts in cities that once curtained the upper deck, national broadcasts bumping into primetime slots, and sponsorship deals that finally let players ditch off-season side hustles. But growth is a double-edged spotlight. Every highlight reel carries a microphone, and every misstep echoes beyond basketball Twitter. That means star behavior isn't just personal PR anymore. It's brand equity for an entire league vying for mainstream permanence. Caitlin Clark embodies the upside. She leans into the noise, fires up crowds with half-court range, and thanks fans for turning up, even when those fans are loud enough to rattle free throw shooters. Her rookie season's ratings spike became the proof of concept networks needed to justify bigger rights fees. On the flip side, Griner's blow-up shows the downside of sudden scrutiny. One ill-phrased gripe can turn applause into backlash overnight, dragging teammates, sponsors, and league execs into crisis management mode. That contrast forces a hard question on every veteran: adapt to the new decibel level or risk getting drowned out by it. Front offices are quietly updating media training manuals, reminding players that fan engagement isn't a nuisance. It's the fuel underwriting projected salary cap jumps. Meanwhile, advertisers want feel-good stories, not firestorms, and they have the budgets to pick any sport they like. If the league can channel Clark-style magnetism while minimizing Griner-type misfires, the next CBA may finally resemble the paydays players have fought for. If not, the window could slam shut just as quickly as it opened, which leaves us at the turning point. Packed arenas and record valuations on one side, the ever-present risk of self-inflicted wounds on the other. The league must decide whether to treat rising fan volume as a nuisance or a gift, because in today's outrage economy, the crowd will keep shouting. The only variable is whether those shouts sound like cheers or boos in the highlight reels to come. Brittney Griner's journey has traveled farther than any baseline, out of a Russian cell, through a diplomatic firestorm, and straight into an arena suddenly vibrating with record-breaking cheers. Yet the past few weeks proved that a rescue stamp in your passport and a stat line on your jersey don't shield you from the echo chamber of modern fandom. One phrase, light racism, turned applause into interrogation. Stephen A. Smith's reminder of the Merchant of Death swap forced a national gut check on gratitude. Ticket sites, locker rooms, and sponsorship boards all weighed in without waiting for the final buzzer, showing that today's game extends far beyond the hardwood. So what sticks after the tweets cool and the stories expire? Maybe it's this. In 2025, the crowd is louder than ever. The algorithm loves a clash, and the cost of freedom is paid in scrutiny as much as sweat. Heroes can ignite headlines or incinerate goodwill with the same microphone, and leagues rise or stall on how their stars handle the spotlight. For the WNBA and for Griner, the scoreboard that matters most isn't just points or rebounds. It's how well gratitude, pressure, and opportunity play together when the whole world is listening.